The sun beat down hard on the city of Lahore that afternoon, casting sharp shadows on the pavement as Zain stood outside the glimmering glass doors of Grand Union Bank. He wiped the sweat from his brow with a trembling hand and adjusted his worn-out shirt collar. His heart pounded like a drum inside his chest, not from fear, but hope. His shoes were polished, though cracked around the edges. His slacks were pressed, borrowed from his cousin for this interview. In one hand, he held a carefully prepared resume. In the other, a faded leather file that contained all his dreams, packed tightly into degrees, certificates, and a recommendation letter from his college dean. He'd come from nothing, a lower middle-class neighborhood, raised by a widowed mother who worked double shifts sewing clothes just to send him to school. Zain had always been brilliant with numbers. He topped every class, earned a full scholarship, and graduated with honors in finance. His professors called him a prodigy. "You'll be working in a big bank one day," they said. This was supposed to be the beginning of that dream. Asterisk, as he entered the air-conditioned lobby. The chill of the interior hit him like a slap. Not because of the temperature, but because of the contrast. Everyone inside looked like they belonged. In a glossy magazine, sharp suits, sleek heels, designer watches, he stood out like a sore thumb. Still, he walked up to the receptionist, cleared his throat, and said softly, "Zainroff, I'm here for the junior accountant interview." The woman barely glanced up, her red-painted nails clicking on her keyboard.
Room
3C, second floor, she said with disinterest, motioning with her chin. Asterisk Zain followed the directions and soon found himself outside a glass-walled conference room. Inside sat 4 people, all looking like they owned the world. He took a deep breath, knocked gently, and stepped in. The man at the head of the table, Armin Malik, looked up from his phone, then slowly scanned Zain from head to toe. The smirk was instant. "You're Zain?" he asked, tone dipped in mock surprise. Zain nodded, forcing a smile. Yes. "Sir, asterisk have a seat," Armand said, gesturing lazily. The interview began, or at least it pretended to. The questions were superficial. "What do you know about corporate accounting?" "My banking." "Dade." But Zain answered with poise, explaining accounting principles, quoting audit standards, even referencing a case study he'd written in college. But no one was listening. One of the panelists whispered something to another who covered her mouth to stifle a laugh. Zain saw it, felt it, but he pushed on. When they asked about his weaknesses, he said honestly, "I come from a background where I didn't have access to many resources, but I've never let that stop me from working harder than anyone else." Asterisk Armand leaned back, then chuckled. "That's quite touching," he said. "So you want to be a banker, huh? Tell me, where did you get your shoes from, Sunday Bazaar?" The room erupted in low laughter. Zain felt his face heat up, but he stayed silent. Armin continued, "Look, son, we're not running a charity here. We need people who look like professionals. Can't impress clients. Not someone who looks like you walked in off the street." Zain swallowed hard. "Sir, I no need." To explain, Armin cut him off. "Thank you for your time. We'll let you know." Another snide laugh, another chuckle. One of the panelists, a man named Tariq, leaned in and whispered loud enough for Zain to hear. "Don't worry, I hear the tea stall outside is hiring." Asterisk Zain stood up, each movement slow and deliberate, like he was gathering the broken pieces of his pride from the floor. He forced a nod. "Thank you for the opportunity," he said quietly. No one replied. He turned and walked out of the room, his heart shattering with each step, but his spine somehow still straight. As he stepped back into the blinding sunlight outside, he didn't cry. Not yet. He just stood there, looking back at the building, his fists clenched. He whispered to himself one day, "I'll come back, and it won't be as an applicant." Asterisk from that day forward, Zain disappeared from the radar of those high and mighty. While his peers joined fancy banks or moved abroad, Zain worked 2 jobs, security guard at night, data entry by day. He rented a tiny room above a mechanic's garage. He lived on tea and bread, but he never stopped studying, every waking. A moment that wasn't spent earning was spent learning. borrowed books, watched online tutorials, sat for entrance exams, and eventually enrolled in a certification course for chartered accountancy. Asterisk people laughed at him again this time. For dreaming too big? CA from your background? Do you even have a laptop? One cousin scoffed. Zain just smiled and kept going. He failed his first exam, then his second. But the third time, he passed with distinction. That gave him the confidence to move forward. He took up small freelance projects for accounting firms, doing audits, taxes, reconciliations, anything that gave him experience. Each client was treated with the respect and effort of a corporate CEO. Slowly, word spread about this quiet, diligent, insanely sharp accountant who could catch financial mistakes that entire departments missed. Asterisk, he earned his CPA next. Then, he began attending finance seminars, eventually invited to speak at some. He didn't post selfies. He didn't chase applause. He built his reputation silently. Within 5 years, he was working independently, auditing mid-sized companies, respected for his precision and integrity. He began spotting trends, fraud schemes, shell companies, bribes disguised as marketing expenses. His forensic reports were detailed and impossible to ignore. He exposed a major laundering scandal involving a regional company and became a known name in the auditing community. Asterisk, 10 years passed. Zain no longer looked like the boy who had been laughed at. He was tall, confident, with crisp suits and calm eyes. He spoke little, listened a lot. And then, the opportunity came. Grand Union Bank was being flagged for suspicious activity by the Central Regulatory Board. They were looking for a special auditor, someone independent, neutral, ruthless. Zain's name was recommended by 3 major audit firms. The irony. Grand Union Bank didn't even realize who he was. Asterisk, he received the official appointment letter. On a Wednesday, he stared at it for a long time, then finally smiled, not out of pride but purpose. He packed his laptop, his files, and that same old leather folder that once carried his dreams. And on Monday morning, at 9 a.m. sharp, Zain walked through the same glass doors. Only this time, he wasn't a boy with a resume. He was a man with authority. The receptionist stood up as he showed his badge. Auditor Zain Roff. She asked. He nodded. I'm here to review your books. The beginning of their nightmare. And the start of Zain's quiet revenge. Zain's footsteps echoed down the polished hallway of Grand Union Bank's corporate office as he made his way to the boardroom assigned for his audit. Each step was deliberate, heavy with a decade's worth of memories. The last time he walked this hall, he was humiliated and laughed at. Today, the silence was deafening. No one laughed. No one even made eye contact. His name badge, freshly printed with the title Independent Auditor Zain Roff, commanded quiet respect. The receptionist stood when he passed. Security cleared his entry without question, and the once unreachable executives were now scrambling to accommodate his arrival. He wasn't an outsider anymore. He was the authority. Asterisk, the CEO, a stern-faced man named Naveed Haroon, met him with an overly polite handshake. We're honored to have you here, Mr. Roff, he said. Zain nodded. I'll need access to your general ledger, vendor payments, inter-branch transfers, and executive expenses for the past 5 years. I'll also need employee email logs and the internal audit committee's reports. Naveed blinked. It's quite a lot. You've been accused of laundering over 1.2 billion rupees, Zain said flatly. It's not a lot. It's the minimum. The weight of his words settled heavily into the room. There was no space for charm or ego now. Zain wasn't here for revenge. He was here for truth. And truth, he had learned, was often the most powerful weapon. Asterisk for the first 2 days. Zain worked silently from a private office on the 9th floor. The IT team connected him to their databases, and he set up layers of digital checks, cross-matching vendor IDs, transaction timestamps, and audit trails. What he found within the first 48 hours was enough to make any accountant's blood run. Cold. Payments routed to shell companies. Large cash withdrawals with vague notations. Transactions masked under bogus departments. It wasn't just sloppiness, it was orchestrated deceit. Someone or several people were deliberately bleeding the bank dry under the guise of operational expenses. Asterisk, on the third day, Zain requested. An interview with the head of accounts, the same man who had laughed the loudest at his interview 10 years ago, Tariq Mahmood. The moment Tariq stepped into the room, he froze. Gone was the arrogance, the mocking smirk. His hair was thinner, his belly rounder, but his eyes still held a trace of the old dismissiveness, though now dimmed by fear. "Mr. Roth, I didn't realize you were the same," he began. Zain didn't flinch. "Not here for nostalgia, Mr. Tariq. Sit down." Starisk. Zain laid out the documents, dozens of suspicious transactions, all signed off by Tariq's department. "These payments," Zain said, pointing to highlighted figures, went to non-existent vendors. "These approvals bear your signature. Care to explain?" Tariq stammered. Those were routine operations. Marketing subcontractors." Zain cut him off. "Marketing? A payment of 18 million rupees to a shell company registered under a fake NIC. Sent at 2:43 a.m.? Tariq's face turned pale. "There must be some mistake." "No mistake," Zain said calmly. "Just fraud." Leaned forward. "You remember the last time we met in this building?" Tariq's eyes met his shame flooding his expression. "Yes," he whispered. "Good. Then you'll understand when I say this time, it's me asking the questions." Asterisk, as Zain continued digging, the rot only deepened. Executive bonuses tied to fake profits. Loans issued to employees under ghost names. A series of transactions pointing to offshore accounts in Dubai and Singapore. He traced the corruption like a bloodhound. Every transaction, every deleted record, every concealed paper trail. He didn't sleep much. He didn't take calls. The fire inside him burned with purpose. He wasn't just auditing a bank, he was tearing down the very arrogance that once mocked him. Asterisk a week later. Zain stood before the full board of directors. His report was 167 pages long, supported by annexers, data visualizations, and signed affidavits. He didn't use dramatics. He didn't raise his voice. He simply presented facts. One by one, he walked them through the crimes, the methods, the money, the people. Names were named, evidence shown. The room went silent. Amon Malik, the once proud man who had mocked Zain for his shoes, now sat red-faced, sweating bullets. You're destroying reputations with this," he finally blurted. Zain looked at him, eyes steely. "You destroyed reputations when you signed those fake audits. I'm just bringing it to light." Asterisk. The regulatory board acted swiftly. Arrest warrants were issued. 2 directors resigned before the police could arrive. Tariq was taken into custody. Armin Malik tried to flee the country, but was intercepted at the airport. News channels exploded with the scandal. Grand Union Bank in ruins, audit exposes billion-rupee fraud. Headlines screamed Zain's name, his calm photo in a suit, eyes steady, was splashed across television and social media. But Zain gave no interviews. No press conferences. When asked by a reporter for comment outside the building, he simply said, "I was just doing my job." Asterisk, behind closed doors, the CEO offered him a permanent position. "We need someone like you to fix this place," he said. Zain declined. "I didn't come here to fix your mess. I came to expose it." He packed his bag, took the same elevator down, and walked out through the same doors. But this time, he wasn't broken. He wasn't even angry. He was fulfilled. That old leather file, which he still carried for memory's sake, had once held rejection letters. Today, it carried his final audit, the proof of his rise. Asterisk, back in his small but neat home, Zain sat down with a cup of tea. He looked at an old photo of his mother, who had passed just a year earlier. "I did it, Amy," he whispered. They laughed, but I didn't stop. He donated a portion of his audit fee to fund scholarships for students from underprivileged areas, kids like him who no one believed in. His phone buzzed constantly, emails, offers, awards, but Zain didn't care for fame. What mattered most was the quiet victory, the complete circle. The reminder that the best revenge doesn't shout. It speaks in success. Asterisk, his story became legend not because he screamed for justice, but because he never gave up. He wasn't out for revenge, he was out for respect. And he earned it the only way that truly lasts, through relentless perseverance, quiet dignity, and unmatched excellence.